Welcome to the Hardcore MBA podcast with your host, Erland Bakke.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hardcore MBA. I'm signing in here from a very sunny and super cold Oslo, Norway. I will be going skiing after this interview. We have a couple of nice skiing places around Oslo, which you can drive to in about 30 minutes. And I actually haven't been skiing for about 2 years, so I'm really missing it. So I'm, as usual, I'm going to head out and then do some telemarking, which is it's a little bit different than downhill. Looks a bit funny, but I actually only have telemark skis. But let's get on to everything about the website. So websites have been around for quite a long time now, and a lot of people are still not really getting it right. And that's why I invited Steve Woody here today. He is the author of Plan Your Website, which you can buy on Amazon. He teaches entrepreneurs and startups how to create profitable websites, because it's not only about having a website. There's a lot of different changes that have happened in recent years, and Steve is going to tell us all about that. You can find out more info about him on onlinemastery.co.uk. Steve, welcome to the call.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. I appreciate the time.
So, why write a book about websites?
It's a good question. I used to build websites, so I'm a developer by trade, and what I realized is that I was spending a lot of time competing for work on a lot of outsourcing websites, a lot of freelancing websites with people because I'm from the UK, so I'm based in London, and it's quite an expensive place to live. And so, especially with the way the pound is in correlation to the rest of the world economically, there were people in other countries who had a much cheaper cost of living. And as a result, they could undercut me. And so I would end up trying to compete on this level that I just couldn't win. And so I needed to take a step back, and I needed to look at my business model and what it was I was doing and what I wanted to do. And so with the age of not just websites, but the way that technology now helps people to build websites, I saw this shift in the marketplace coming, and consistently what I was looking at in my business is, where can I add the most value? And what can I do to add the most value? And for me, it wasn't in building websites. Building websites for me was a tool to get someone to a result, which is normally to sell or market themselves, right? So for me, it was about the strategy. It was because anyone can go and build a website. You know, my 6-year-old daughter's built a website. Building a website is not difficult. But building the right website, building a website that takes your business from where you are to where you want to be, that takes planning. And so Plan Your Website was created in the basis of me wanting to help as many people as I could, and also not having the time to help all of those people. The book was the next sort of logical step in that evolution process to be able to get the best of both worlds.
So what are some of the key things that you need to look at when planning your website?
That's a great question. The key things you need to look at, well, there's a few, but the most fundamental thing that I believe is, who are you marketing to? You know, who is it that is at the end of the day going to be on this website that you're building? Who is your target audience? Because the other thing is that having no clients, people think that that's kind of, in business, having no clients is the worst place to be, but there's actually a step below that. There's a place that is worse than having no clients, and that's having the wrong client. Because that could actually destroy your business. And so what I tend to do is, the very first thing I do with people is I take them to look inside at themselves. Who are you? You know, what do you want to do? What are your core values? What is your passion? What's your mission statement? What is it that drives you to do what it is you're doing? If you just want to throw a website up to try and make some money, then I mean, there's a lot of people that do that and that will say they can help you with that. That's not my game. I'm looking for people that want to genuinely make a difference in the world, and that want to sort of get out there in a way that's going to impact as many lives in a positive way as possible. And so once you've looked at yourself and you know who you are, the next evolutionary point of that journey is, who's your target audience? Who are they? And then once you know who they are, what are you saying to them? And so it's understanding the design, the content, the structure, the layout, the whole customer journey, so that you can sort of guide them through a series of events that leads them to ultimately buy from you, or for you to add value to their lives, which in a product or a service, which is where I focus my energy. Because if you've got a website, it's online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? it kind of just, it makes sense to use that to your advantage to help you in your day-to-day business.
What about modeling? So basically, something that I've done quite a few times is I will just find a website that I like, and I will say, make this website. Use our content, change the colors to these colors, and because if somebody is very very successful in an area, so let's say the most famous real estate investor in the UK has a website and does what you want to do, then you can say, oh, I can actually use his template, because it's likely that he's gone through some iterations and made some improvements and kind of
Absolutely.
done a lot of the legwork for you. I mean, that's how China really built up themselves as an economy, was just copying everything the West did and did it cheaper. So
I'm trying to think of the saying. It's if you copy from one, it's plagiarism, but if you copy from many, it's research.
yeah.
And it's like Tony Robbins. He's I follow a lot of what Tony Robbins does, and he says about modeling people and how effective it is. I mean, look, here's the thing: not knowledge is learning from your own experience, but true wisdom is learning from other people's.
Mm.
And so for me, why do I want to make mistakes when there's people out there that have already made the mistakes? If I can learn from them and save myself the time, energy, and money, then of course I'm going to do that. And Russell Brunson's a friend of mine who runs a company called .com Secrets, and he does what's called funnel hacking. And so to funnel hack, you would go and buy your competitor's product, and you would look at and you would document the entire journey, and you would find out what works, and you would use that in your own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm absolutely for that. I don't think that you should copy. I mean, because here's the thing, and I mean, I've been involved in lawsuits where people have taken our material and we've had to legally fight for the copyrights and the trademarks. And so I don't think that you should be copying people, but I think to take someone's process and to be able to use that and to be able to create your own version of what works, absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, straight plagiarism using the exact same logo and just changing it to something slightly different. That is obviously
And yeah, this is the thing. I mean, if somebody's doing something and you copy their website, chances are Google's going to know that it already exists and it was theirs first. And Google's very clever, and not just Google, but other search engines.
yeah.
And so you want to be, as much as you want to copy somebody in terms of if there's like we have structures and layouts and templates that we've tested that we know they work.
Mm-hmm.
And so we say, look, if you're going to have a website, then the first thing that your website should have is like a headline and a subheadline and a call to action. It's going to have a video, and there's a structure of layout of things that you will create within a page template that work, and it makes sense to follow that. So of course there's always going to be an element of similarity in successful websites. Some people try and push the mold and do things that are clever, but ultimately, I mean, what it all comes down to is who is your target audience? Who is going to be on your website, and what do they need? What do they want to see, and how can you serve them, and how can you give them your value in the most effortless way possible? There's a
So
great
when people plagiarize your website, did they actually copy the text as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're talking about, this was my wife's website, and we're
Right.
talking about 80% of the content was pretty much,
Wow.
they
Yeah, that's
actually,
not good.
to the point where they removed the copyright from the documents. And yeah, it was intense. And
That's it. That's
here's,
insane.
it was, and
That's
here's
not
the thing,
something
and
to
this
do.
is, and it was a learning curve for us, because what we realized is whilst we were paying out for lawyers to protect our copyright,
Mm.
well, my wife's copyright, the person who had stolen it, normally if someone's stealing something from you, it's because they're not in a position to do it themselves,
Mm.
which means therefore they don't have the money to fight the legal fees. And if you do end up winning a successful law case against them, you're not actually going to get anything out of it.
Mm.
So it's a really difficult world to be in that sense.
Yeah.
There's not a lot you can do. And if you're successful, you will be copied.
Yeah.
It's just inevitable. You can protect yourself to a degree, but what I said to my wife and what I would say to anybody in this situation is that if somebody's copying you, they're not creating. And if they're not creating, then they're always going to be, they're always going to require you to be able to get to the next step. They can't do it for themselves, which means you're always going to be a step above them.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And
when I
so
say
that's,
modeling, I do not mean straight
yeah,
out
no,
copying
but
and a website.
and
I'm
I was only
talking
drawing a
about
point there because
the
modeling, I
layout,
100% agree with you. I mean,
Yeah.
modeling is the most successful way to get from A to B in the quickest way possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just being careful, because there are a lot of people, and it's true, there are a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want you to copy that website," and they're like literally just reword some of the text. And I just think that you've got to be careful in the way that you model people.
Yes.
It's an effort. standpoint. That's all.
Yeah, there's definitely straight out copying somebody's brand and text, and the that's different. But the process, if they have a certain way of taking you through a journey to buy something, then that's interesting
So,
to look at.
and it's who you use as well. I mean, this is the other thing, because I mean, I've hired designers before, and the designer has literally gone onto Google, lifted some images for logos, and then presented them to me. And when I've put them into a Google search and I've looked, I found that these logos already belong to someone else,
Right.
and they've just tweaked them ever so slightly to make them like to me. So I just think you've got to be very careful where your content comes from and where your
Yeah.
content goes, because I mean, once it's on the web, it's on the web. It's there for everyone
So
to see.
even when you have somebody do graphic design for you, I mean, they could still be just plagiarizing somebody else. They sell it to you as something original, and then you can get
Depends on who
sued.
you hire. If you go on to, like, this is why I would never use a site like Fiverr.com. You know, it's fantastic for some things, it's brilliant for some things, but if you realistically think you can get a logo for $4, I mean, you need to ask where that logo is coming from. And that's the difference between, I think, where I was and where I am now. And it's I mean, this is what I've said. I mean, anyone can throw a website up. Building a website is not difficult, but
Yeah.
building a right website that's going to sustain you and your brand and your business, and it's going to make you stand out as like a key person of influence. Because this is all a website does is it's just a leverage tool. It's a way to create positioning. It's a way to automate tasks. You know, it's a tool for your business. Ultimately, if it's going to sell your products and your services for you, that's great. But you're the brand. You've got the business at the end of the day. And so it's really about how you can. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's about how you can push forward and use those tools to get you to the next level. So I mean, a lot of people focus on a website really heavily. I don't think a website's that important, which is ironic because I'm selling a book called Plan Your Website, and I've got a course telling people how to build websites. But the whole purpose is get it done, get it so it works, so that you're not constantly fighting fires, trying to integrate systems together that don't want to work with each other. Just get to the point when you build it so it works, so that you can focus on doing what you do best, which is delivering your value.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the things that people struggle with is doing less. So some websites, they just have like they're asking you to do one thing, and then other websites, especially like in the 90s, you would have really really busy websites, lots of things, lots of links, lots of call to actions.
Yeah.
Why do we sometimes kind of try to throw a lot of stuff on a page?
That is an amazing question. It's not even a good question. That's a fantastic question. And that is why so many people fail. Because, and to go into this a little bit deeper, rotating banners on a website is one of the key things, where you see these rotating banners and you're like, oh, you're telling me about, and then it goes, oh no, oh, now you're telling me about, it's factually proven that they do not work.
Yeah.
Most people don't get past the first or even second banner. And there's too many things, because the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Realistically, you can multitask, yes, but you can only focus on one core area. And if you're looking for something and you're giving people too many options, the reason that people normally do that, and it's normally on their homepage. So the first page that people visit is normally, here's everything I do because I don't know what you want, so I'm going to give you everything that you can look at and you pick. And it's like, it shouldn't be like that. If you're the expert, then you know what this person needs. So if I'm taking you on a journey, then you're going on a journey and I'm creating that journey for you. And so you need to do A, B, C, and you need to do it in that order, because that's going to serve you in the best way possible. And so for me, the less you have, the more clearer, the more clarity you have, the more certain you are, the better you are in that sense. If you throw everything onto a homepage, it's almost like, I don't kind of know what I'm doing, so I'm going to put it out there and you just take what works. And there's no guidance, there's no direction, there's no structure. And so it hits conversions. And ultimately, that's what it's about. A lot of people come to me and they say, I need to market. And this is a typical question I get daily, is people come up to me and say, should I do Facebook advertising, or should I do Google ads, or, should I do SEO? What should I do onto my website? And I'm like, none of it. You shouldn't be marketing. Before you even start marketing your website, you need to know your website works. Otherwise, you're going to have, if you imagine, I love this analogy. If you imagine you've got a bucket, right, and we just punch a load of holes in this bucket, and then we start pouring water in, and water's the marketing. That water is just going to flow out the holes in the bucket. So before you actually fill your bucket up, you need to fill those holes up. and your website is going to be leaking. It will. I can guarantee it, because even my website leaks. Everyone's website has challenges, and it's a continuing, never-ending cycle of finding out what works, innovating, tweaking, split testing, and just taking it to the next level. And that's where the experience comes from. That's where you can model people. But I would say that before people even look at marketing, before people even consider trying to bring new business in, they should look at what they've got and make sure it works. Bring a few tested, beta tested clients, trusted friends, family, whatever it may be, through your process, so that you can monitor what happens when they purchase. Where do they get redirected to? What welcome email do they get? How are they nurtured? How are they looked after? How do I get them to engage with me so they become a raving fan, and then they tell other people about what I'm doing? Because your best form of marketing is not what you do; it's what other people do.
So how do you actually track what people do? I mean, you have Google Analytics. Google Analytics used to be a very simple, easy to understand tool. Now it's kind of blown out of. I mean, it's become very complicated to even find the most simple things.
It's interesting because I do a webinar, and I'm actually doing one on the 19th, where I talk about the three things. There are three things that unanimously, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of website reviews. I did one before, it was 3.5 hours, where I just got people to submit links on Facebook, and I had about all these websites, and I just went through them one by one, loaded up the website, and I just looked at it and said, this is what I think, and just give my opinion. And across hundreds and hundreds of websites, they continuously, I would say about 80 to 90%, are missing three things. One is a clear headline. So when you land on a site, telling me what your website does, telling me who you are and what you can do for me. That's the first thing a website should do when you land on it. Not fend for yourself or look at everything. It's just really clear. Yes, I'm in the right place. Yes, this is what I should do next. The second thing is a call to action, a clear call to action that, do more, get started, by whatever it is you want someone to do, so they can see the journey, so you know what they want them to do next. And the third thing, and relevant to what you just mentioned, is analytics. 80% of people that I review websites for don't even have analytics on their website. The other 18% out of the 20 that do have analytics have never used it. So they have it, but they've never logged in. And if I asked them to look at their demographics or their analytic data, they wouldn't have a clue what they were doing. And so you're absolutely right. Analytics, Google Analytics, is a fantastic tool. There is nothing better than geeking out over looking at your site in real time and seeing people come onto your site and then going in different directions. It's fascinating to watch, especially if you send an email blast out to a list that you've built, and then all of a sudden you've got hundreds and thousands of people hitting your website at the same time. It's exhilarating. It really is. And then when people start purchasing and you see orders come through, it's like almost having the feeling that you're printing money. There's no, like, when you realize that you've created that and you have this, there's no feeling like it. It's amazing. What I would say is that Google Analytics is one small part of the equation. I also use tracking called Hotjar, and I use that for heat map tracking. So I actually track on my website, and if you want, I could actually share my screen and show you.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm more than happy to do that. If you just give me 10 seconds, I'm going to just and the
So
reason that I show this to
Heat
people
Jar, yeah?
yeah, this is Hotjar. So what I'll do, let me just
Hotjar, okay.
let me just share my
Hotjar.com
screen.
or
Is that again?
Hotjar.com?
That's right, yeah. So hopefully you can see my screen okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to sign in, and I've just stripped this account down because I've been recording a video series. So these are all pretty much new. I've just started them again. But for example, if I view this heat map, then already here I can see where people are clicking on my website.
Okay.
And I get an idea of what works and what doesn't. And now this is based on 488 people that have clicked on this page, and this is the homepage of my website. So you can get an idea of where people go when you click down, what they're clicking on, and you know what works and what doesn't. So you get an idea. Now, on the other side of that, what I can do is I can do scroll. So now what happens is I can see where people are visiting. Sorry, let me just move this. Where people are visiting on my website. And I get a really good idea here of 100% of the people see this top section, but where the average fold is, I lose 25% of my audience, don't even scroll past this top section.
Right.
And then as I get to the bottom, you'll notice that only 30% of the people actually get to the bottom of my page. So it's really important to make the most important content of your site at the top. If you're wasting this space with things that just don't matter. Like if you've got like a really big logo and loads of padding and loads of things that just really don't serve you,
Yeah.
it's just a waste. So it's really about that. Now, here's another thing. With Hotjar, you can create funnels. So this is an opt-in process that I've got. And again, I'm just doing this for a video. If you imagine here that I have an opt-in page and a thank you page. So I can see that out of 94 people that have viewed my opt-in page, only 18 people have made it through to the thank you page. So I know I'm getting a 20% conversion on this opt-in. Now here's where the magic comes in of Hotjar. If I click watch, I actually record the visits of everyone that comes to my website. Hold on a second. This is where I tell you that I've not been recording it. What I want to show you here, okay, so I've got a feeling. Oh, hold on. It's not been recording. I've stopped it recording. So it's a shame that I can't show you this, but what actually happens is in this process, you click on record, I can actually watch the mouse pointers of where people are and what they're typing in. Let me see if I can reset these filters. Yeah, I've recently reset it. I'm sorry, it's because I'm recording these video series.
Okay.
I've stopped everything I was doing.
So
But you can
basically, when
actually
somebody's
watch.
watching your opt-in page,
I
you can
can
tell when
watch
they
where
drop
people's
off.
mouse is and what you click on, and I can see exactly what you're doing on the website, and I can see where you're struggling and what works and what doesn't.
Right.
It's a really, really powerful tool to be able to, and it's simple. I mean, this is really simple to be able to click on here. You just put in the pages and you say, right, I want this page, this page, this page. You simply, when you edit the funnel, you just type in another step, what it's called, put in the URL, and that's it. It's done. And
Okay.
when you save it, you get the view. So whilst Google Analytics is great, there are other tools out there like this that give you a much better perspective of what you're doing and how you're doing, because you need to know where people are dropping off. Like 80% of the people are not opting in, so I know that I need to convert. I need to work on this opt-in page to make it convert better. There's no point marketing and sending more traffic to this page because I'm hemorrhaging 80% of the people that visit it.
Mm.
And so then it's like, what can I do to bring those people in? Can I use retargeting? Can I change the message? Can I split test? What happens if I use a different button?
Yeah.
So it's little things that you do at this stage to take you from A to B.
And is it a free tool? Does it cost money?
Hotjar is a free tool, but they also have a paid version. So I use a paid
Okay.
version purely for the fact that I, I like to take it a step further
Yeah.
and and get more out of it. And I mean, my website cost me over £500 a month to run, just because of the systems that I'm using. But then when I look at what I get back from that, it's not a cost. You know, I can spend £200 a month on my CRM system. I can spend £100 a month purely on my chat box so that you can communicate with me. And the reason I use these systems is because of the amount of business they bring me in and what they do to nurture the process.
Mm.
So for me, they're an investment.
What about you said you had a chat box? How does that help? So I've
It's
noticed a lot of people have chat boxes now. I think a lot of chat boxes are outsourced, so they kind of have somebody else jump on.
and this is what's fantastic. The reason I automate so much of my website is so that I can be present. So when people, because my chat box is linked to my phone, it's linked to my email, and it's linked to my desktop. And while if I've got my chat box open and someone sends a message, I get the message, unless it's specifically directed, because I can filter when someone sends a message. If they if they use a keyword or a certain type of message, or if they're on a certain page, then maybe I want to filter it out to my team. But 9 times out of 10, the message will come directly to me, and I'll talk to people, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm talking to you.
Mm,
Why are you not got?" And I'm like, "Well, because I want to build relationships.
mm,
I'm not here to sell to you. I'm here to build a relationship, and I'm here to add value. And you'll buy from me because I know I can give you something that you need and you want. People don't buy from businesses or anything. People buy from people.
mm.
And so for me, if I'm the face of my company, I need to be accessible. And
Yeah.
it's being careful who you're accessible with, because I mean, I outsource a lot of work. I do. But then the client process, that's where I want to be. That's what I love doing.
Mm,
You know, my business is scalable and I don't have to be involved in the process. If I don't answer my chat box, then it will go to my team, or it'll tell them they're going to get a reply. And there's filters set up to automate some of the messages, so people don't even need to talk to me.
mm.
But knowing that I can jump in at any point and take over if I want to, that gives me the power of being able to build these relationships. And I've had people that have sent me messages that have said, "I want to buy 50 copies of your book."
Mm.
And because I've been online and I've said, "Absolutely, let's do this now." And so it's opened up opportunities, and I've had the absolute pleasure and privilege of working with some amazing people purely the fact that I was available.
And what is the chat software that you use that you can recommend?
I use Intercom. It's called intercom.io. It is like a CRM system built in. I mean, as a chatbot itself, it's expensive. I think the basic package is $50 a month.
Yeah.
But you'll see it. You'll notice it when you see it. And if you went onto my website, onlinemastery.co.uk, in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see it. And you can choose if it pops up with a message. You can filter. If you could say, if someone hasn't been on my website in the last 3 days, then send them this message. Or if someone's visited this page 5 times, then send them this message. If someone's tried to log in and failed 3 times, send them this message. If someone's at the checkout process and they leave, send them this message. And so you can really filter the journey that people go through to make sure that you're no one likes getting automated emails. No one likes talking to a chat box. No one wants to talk to something when they think a robot or a machine is going to answer.
Yeah.
People want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk to someone if they've, like, if you're coming to me for website advice, you don't want to talk to somebody, no disrespect, but you don't want to talk to somebody in India who I'm paying $10 an hour to. You don't. You want to talk to me. And so I need to make sure I'm available for that. Now, at the same time, you need to respect, as a business owner, you need to respect your time. And so there's nothing wrong with having like assistants and people in place to filter the messages that you get.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that just depends on where you are in your journey. As you start out and as you get more evolved, you can bring more people in. But as a starting point, I think it's really important that people understand that the reason that they're going to be successful is because of them. It's all about how you brand and position yourself, because there's so many people out there that are already, if you're doing something, the chances are it already exists. So it's how can you do it better?
Yeah, yeah, and that actually integrates with your phone as well. So you actually get a message on your iPhone or whatever you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. I get push notifications, and I can turn it on and off. So if I'm not available, then I turn it off.
Yeah,
and it filters to a different place. But it's just having, and it's about the systems. It's about having the systems in place. So I tell people that you should create systems that take you out of your business. You know, one of the first questions when I do a consultation with people and when people read my book, one of the first questions I ask is, what's your exit strategy? And I work with startups. So like when you turn around to a startup and say, okay, how are you going to sell? How are you going to leave your company? They're like, well, I haven't even started it yet. And you're like, well, here's the thing. One day you will exit your business. It's guaranteed. It's either going to be on a plane going to your island, or it's going to be in a coffin. But one day you're going to leave your business. And so it makes sense from day one to set up automated systems because here's the thing. If you're so involved in your business and your website that you're the only one who knows how it works, let's say, God forbid, you get hit by a car and you're in hospital for 6 months. What happens to your business? So you need to be able to set these systems up so that if for some reason, because no one plans on things happening, but things happen. You need to know that if you're, and we bought a company because exactly that happened. A lady, lovely lady, she had to go in for cancer treatment, and for 6 months after all of her chemotherapy, she came out, and her business had fallen because she wasn't there to support it, and she had 14 staff, and the whole business had just collapsed because she wasn't there to run it.
Right.
So I this is why one of the first things I say to people is, how can your business run without you? And so that's exactly what I've done. I've created a business that runs without me. So if something happens to me, my business can still run.
Yeah.
Of course, it's nice to plug in and to be part of it, but it's having the option. It's choosing to do that rather than having to do that.
Right. But you still do a lot of the chat yourself.
Because I love it.
Yeah.
It's a choice. You know, I don't have to. And I get very busy. There's a lot going on. So I don't always have as much as I would love to, I don't always have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm out and about, I mean, you know, if I'm in a car somewhere or a taxi or something, and then I've got my phone on and I'm not doing anything, you know, if I'm traveling, because I do a lot of speaking, so I travel a lot at the moment, then absolutely, I want to be able to engage with people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, of course.
So, I mean, a lot of people will be buying websites on like Squarespace and all these other places just to like buy a website, or lead pages. I'm sure is also easy. Isn't it? Why do you need anything else?
Good question. And that is one which, so as a developer, it's really easy for me to say, don't touch these platforms. But as a business person, I have to be respectable or respective of, I need an outcome. And what tool is going to get me that outcome?
Yeah.
And so the benefit that I have and the value that I bring to the table is I see things from a developer's perspective, but I also see things from a business owner's perspective. I can also see things from a designer's perspective. So whilst I'm not a designer, whilst I'm not a lot of things, because I can see this overall picture, I can say, right, okay, so you need to look at it because there's theme forest, right? If theme forest, for anyone that doesn't know, if you're using WordPress and you need a theme, you can go onto theme forest and you can just search for pretty much anything you want and it's already been made. And
Yeah.
you can just buy it, $50, $60, install it, set it up, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to a developer, theme forest is the biggest pile of shit you'll ever find. But if you talk to a business person, it's the best thing you'll ever find. It's the same with Fiverr. You go on Fiverr, you talk to some like a business owner, Fiverr is the most amazing resource tool you'll ever find for outsourcing. You talk to a graphic designer and they cry tears just at the thought of someone getting something designed on Fiverr. Because it's that whole value worth and it's how can someone who charges $4, how can they have the experience that you need to understand branding, color psychology? How can they understand typography? How can they understand customer needs and wants? And to do that, you have to value yourself, and to value yourself, you have to charge more. So it depends on where you are in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, there are page builders out there: Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, Lead Pages, a lot of things like this. Here's the challenge: you don't own your website;
Right.
you're renting it,
Right.
and so you are in someone else's playground, and it's their rules. And if they want to shut you down, they can shut you down. Now, obviously, they're not going to because it's bad for business. But let's say, for example, I'm just going to use this as an example, and this is just completely hypothetical. Let's say you built your entire business on Lead Pages. And let's say Clay Collins, who owner of Lead Pages, is a great guy. Let's say he gets indicted for some really naughty things that he's done, which he hasn't, but let's just say he does. And let's say that as a result of that, like I mentioned before, he hadn't automated his processes correctly and his whole business collapses. All of your websites that are in his platform, if his platform goes down, where's your business? You've just lost your entire business. I've seen people that build their list on Facebook. I've seen a group of 40,000 people be shut down overnight, gone. They have no way of contacting those people anymore.
So what happened? What happened with those people that got shut down on Facebook? What was the?
That was it.
Why
Gone.
did they get shut down?
Oh, they actually got shut down for a trademark infringement. It was a legitimate reason to be shut down.
Right.
But my point is that there was no warning. It was no change this. It was just you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
And
lose
it's the
that.
same on YouTube. I mean, if you have lots of subscribers on YouTube.
So, and of course, it's always going to be the way. So, and my point is with a website, if you're using, and this is just one reason, you don't own your material. It's not yours. You're renting it, and you're relying on their structure. And if their structure, because look, Wix will come and go, Weebly will come and go, Squarespace will come and go. It's a trend. It's not a sustainable platform. It's a trend. It's like fashion. And there will be the next best thing that will come and undercut the market with the amazing hype that you'll buy into, and you'll end up going around in circles with the latest and greatest things, and you'll end up wasting your time buying all this shit that won't serve you, when really all you need to do is just get out there and focus on you and your value.
Yeah.
So I would say there is a reason that WordPress uses 30%, like 30% of the internet is run on WordPress. There's a reason for that. It's open source, general purpose license. You own it. You own the code. You can manipulate it and do whatever you want with it. You 100% own it. It's yours. And so you have the ability to do what you want. And that's why it's so popular. That's why it's been so popular. The other thing, if you're using another platform, like let's use Squarespace, great example. If you're using Squarespace, let's say, I don't know, let's say in our industry as entrepreneurs, let's say Richard Branson. Let's say we meet him and let's say he reads your book and he's like, Never Work Again. What an amazing book. I love this book. Everyone needs to hear about this book. And they're like, right. Richard Branson gets on his camera and he says, Never Work Again. You need to buy this book. Go to Never Work Again. Go to your website. And then all these floods of people come to your website. I mean, have you ever tried to put 1,000 people through a front door at the same time?
It's difficult.
Very. And the problem is Squarespace has a duty of care to all of its members. And if you start hogging resources, if you start getting a lot of traffic come to your site, then Squarespace will just shut you down.
Really?
They have to, because they have to protect everybody. and they're using shared resources. And even though they have great systems, at the same time, you are still in a pool with other people. You know, and you can have one person living in a mansion and you can have a million people living in a mansion. At the end of the day, it's only a mansion. And depending on the
So
quality of
if you
life
have a WordPress site and you host it with, let's say, GoDaddy, do they have any restrictions there on, like, let's say you get a million hits?
I mean, I don't want to be derogatory to any type of person, and I used to run my own servers myself. There's a company called EIG, Endurance Group or Endurance International. I would not personally use any of their services or any of the companies that they're involved with, and that is just a personal opinion. And I've blogged about it, and there are articles about it as to why. I'm not going to go into that now because I don't need to. GoDaddy, HostGator, anything you're paying between $1 and $5 a month for, you know, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And if you're on a shared server with people, then you are running the risk. The reason it is cheap is because they pool all the resources together. And to protect everyone, if you start getting a lot of instant traffic, I have a client of mine who they were doing a global launch, 4 continents at the same time. And what basically happened was they built this amazing site. They had all these webinars, they had all these experts, and it was a multi-million-pound launch or multi-million-dollar launch. And they had all of this stuff going on at the same time. And someone had overlooked the hosting platform they were using. And I'm not going to name any names, but they were on a cheap version like GoDaddy of a hosting provider. And what happened is after the webinar, they started driving all of this masses of traffic to the website. At one point, it crashed. They lost $500,000 in sales to a solution which actually cost them $25.
Wow. So, so I guess if you used Infusionsoft instead of that, it would have been a better.
Well, here's the thing, because I mean, Infusionsoft is for like a CRM. It's like an autoresponder. But I mean, when you look at lead pages, for example, going back and wrapping up that section with the page builders. If you built your stuff on lead pages is great. You know, Squarespace is great. It works. It serves a purpose. Otherwise, people wouldn't use it. Optimized Press works. It's great. ClickFunnels. Russell Brunson, a phenomenal guy. ClickFunnels is a great platform. They're great. But I would never put all my eggs in one basket, especially when I don't have that control. I use them, yes, I would use all of them, and I work with people that use them. But ultimately, you're always going to be best when you own and when you're using the material. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't use third-party systems. I use Infusionsoft, that's my CRM system. But then I am using a third-party system, and I'm putting all of my stuff into that system. But the thing is, I know that I can export that data and move it if I need to. And it's about having the ability to take that data from one platform and put it onto another platform. It's not that you want to, but just knowing you can. And it's about having constant backups. You know, just because your host backs up your website doesn't mean you shouldn't do your own backups. You should not rely on anybody else to look after your stuff. You should look after it yourself. And you can automate it these days. It's simple. But you should have an automated version of your backup. Your host should have a version. Do you know what I mean? Your developer should have a version, because if something goes wrong, and you shouldn't store it in your house, because what if you have a house fire? You know, it should be on the cloud. And you should, if this is your business, if this is your income, and you're not taking the precautions to look after it because I'm too busy, I've got other things that are, it's just no excuse. It takes minutes to set up.
Yeah.
And so it's like you just spend the time, you set it up, you look after it, and if you've got a business at the end of the day and your business is worth something to you, then you'll make the time. Because there's nothing worse than having a system that's not backed up and then saying, oh, I did an update and for some reason it all broke and now I don't have a backup. And I see it every day.
Let's talk a little bit about split testing. What is it, and how can most people don't do it, as usual. It's the case for most things that, you know, it's like, oh, I want to be really fit, and all you have to do is go to the gym, but people just don't do it. So it's kind of like split. People know what split testing is, but can you explain it first and then also say like, oh, this is how you do it?
Totally. I mean, I use Hotjar for split testing. It's brilliant in that sense for testing out the funnels.
What was that
Google
called?
does it.
What was the name?
The Hotjar.
Hotjar. Okay.
Yeah, that program I showed you. So Google Analytics lets you split test. You can set up what's called goals, and you can do things. So all I would say is a split test is basically you create something, and I mean, if I was to look at your website, and let's say we had a look at your website, I'm certain that I would have an opinion of something you could do on your website, and I'm certain you would have an opinion of something you could do on your website. Now, who's to say whose opinion's right or wrong? And so what you need to do is, and this is what I say to people, if ever I get into a point with someone, and I do, this happens a lot. I mean, I'm always challenging people. And so I'm always telling you things that I think you can do to improve, but you may not agree with me. And that's fine. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to try and take you to the next level in your business. And so what I would ultimately say when we get to that point when we're like, well, okay, let's agree to disagree. I'm like, let's split test it. You take your version, I'll take my version. We'll send 50% of the traffic to you. We'll send 50% of the traffic to me. We'll do it for a month and we'll see. And we'll let the facts dictate which is successful. Because there's no arguing with the facts. If you've got something like, if you've got a headline and you change that headline and all of a sudden you get 10% more people signing up to your website, the facts speak for themselves. If you add a button or you change something on a page or you change the pricing's a great one. I don't know what to charge. Well, if you're going to charge £100, then charge 120 and charge 80 and send people to each one and see which sells more. And you work on the point that you get to what's called, the happy place.
But split testing ultimately is something that you consistently should be working on, or is it like
absolutely. I mean, you should always be split testing. Always. You should. And here's the thing. Some people, they get so carried away that they've got 20 tests running at the same time. And the challenge with that is how do you know what's effective?
Right.
So you should only have one, maybe two, but I would suggest, like with a web page should have one outcome. It should have a clear and concise message that sends them on a journey, and you should only run one test at a time. I mean, I can run a test on one page and a test on a different page, that's fine. But you should never run two tests together because they're going to conflict you're never going to know what's causing that outcome.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say, test this, see if it works, test that. And then you need to run it for not necessarily a specific amount of time, but if you're getting a million people hit your website a day, then you're going to get a lot. And the more data you get, the better.
Yeah.
You get a million people hit your website in a day. You've only got to run a test for 24 hours, and you're going to know whether it works or not. And if you're only getting 1,000 people a month, it's going to take you a lot longer to get that result. So you need to know how much traffic you're getting to your website. Most people's website doesn't have traffic. They'll get spikes. They'll put a Facebook message out and they'll get 2 or 3 people or 5 or 10 people come to their website and they'll look around and they'll go. And most people's websites, occasionally there's some people. And it's not unless you've got a website that's delivering such value that people are constantly on it. For my website, there are always people on my website continuously because of what I offer. I have workbooks, courses, things people can do. So there's always someone on my website around the world doing something on my website. And that brings you into a new level where I can't just update my website because to update my website is going to affect people that are on it. So then we need to look at the structure of what we're building and how are we going to update the content? How are we going to do the things we're doing? How are we going to do it in a way that's going to actually not affect the people on the website? And a perfect example of this is yesterday. I moved some of my core services around and there was between a 1 and 3 hour window where it affected the people on my website. And so I have to plan that in. I actually have to make that a process. And I have to look at my analytics and say, when is my website the quietest? When can I do my update that it's not going to affect that many people? I need to send an email out to people so they know I'm going to do an update so that they're aware because it's all about expectations. Otherwise, people come to my website and it's down and they're like, you're teaching me how to build a website and your website's down.
Yeah.
So it's all
that wouldn't be good.
No, exactly. And it happens. I mean, look, one thing I can guarantee you with technology is I promise you now it will go wrong.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. And it's not about it not going wrong. It's not about making it perfect and bulletproof. It's about having the systems in place that if it goes wrong, you can deal with it.
Yeah, get it back online.
Absolutely.
That's the problem.
And that's why with hosting, one of my clients, he had one of his clients did a blog post and it went viral. And he was getting almost 1 million people a day hit his website.
Wow.
And this happened for about a week.
That's crazy.
Just under 1 million. He was getting I think it was like between 800,000 and 900,000 people a day, unique visits to his website for a week, for about 5 or 6 days. It was just being bombarded.
Yeah.
And the server that we use a specific server, and they phoned us up and was like, hello, what's going on?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so that was our first we better look at this. And we was like, oh my, and it's exciting because that's a lot of traffic. And the energy, it was really, really exciting. First time that had ever happened to that scale. And so if that would have been on GoDaddy or another server like that, it would have crashed.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more important time that your website needs to be up when you've got 1 million people trying to visit it.
So what was the how did he make it go viral, and what was the outcome of that viral?
Great question. It was an old blog post. I mean, this went viral the end of last year, and it got picked up. The actual article was published in May.
Okay.
So it was like it had been out for like 4, 5, 6 months, and it had a bit of traction, and it was good. It had a really provocative image, a really good. It was an illustration that was drawn by. And this is another thing. If you just go and take an image off Google and something goes viral, and you don't own that image, you know you're getting a lawsuit.
Really?
You know something's going to land on your doorstep.
Wow.
You don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that the images you're using are royalty-free images, that you own them, that you can use them.
It sounds like you're speaking from experience here.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. It's stuff. My stuff's been stolen, and look, if I see something out there, like if something goes viral, look, most people don't worry about getting hacked. Most people don't worry about people finding out that they've stolen their content, even if it's not known it's been done, because most people aren't big enough. And they don't have enough traffic to warrant that. But if you're going to be successful in business online, and you're going to get a big audience, and you're going to be scalable, then you need to know that the world's going to see you. And at some point, somebody may see you that you may not want to see you, or that, may come and say, hold on a minute, you can't use this. And so it's important to know where your stuff's coming from, is what I'm saying. And so when his stuff went viral, I mean, he had all the systems in place. It was great. So he could capture people. He had opt-ins, he had things like that. So there are a lot of people I know that get 5 minutes of fame, because that's all it is. It's just 5 minutes of fame. And it doesn't last in that sense. You have to look for the next thing and the next thing. And that's why people are always chasing. That's why people are trying to capture you with these amazing headlines and these crazy stories. And you see people trending on the news and piggybacking off of stories to try and, there's always people that will do that. So what I would say is that you need the systems in place. A friend of mine was on The Apprentice in the UK. So we have a TV show called The Apprentice, and she was in the final. And I was watching her Facebook, and I mean, she's a beautiful girl who is successful, who's doing well. And so she would have 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 likes on average on a post. When she was in the final of this TV show with Lord Sugar, she was getting like 1, 2, 3, 10,000 likes on a post. But she didn't necessarily have all the systems in place at the time to capitalize and capture that information. I always said if I was going to be on TV, I'd already have the systems so that as people landed, I could filter them.
Right.
And that's what I have. I mean, I did a blog article recently. I joint ventured with a company. They sent an email out to their list of 17,000 people, sent them to a website, and I converted, I had nearly 2,000 people join my list because of that email.
Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal way to be able to, people are like, oh, how do I market? Create something so valuable that people want to work with you, that already have a list, and they'll do the marketing for you.
Yeah.
And if they're an expert and their list trusts them because it's a well-built list, I'm not saying go out and buy a list, I think that's crap. But if someone's built and nurtured a list and they value that list, because your list is your biggest asset in your business. That's your license to print money. And if you've got that list and you've got someone else that's got that list and they're an authority and they say, go and speak to... I had a lady called Alison Rapp, and in her market, in her niche, she's very, very well respected with hands-on practitioners. And so I did a JV with her, and she sent out a blog post and an email to her list for a webinar that I was doing with her for hands-on practitioners. And we sold that at £100 a ticket.
Okay.
And we had 20 people sign up. And that was 90 minutes of my time. Now, the reason I share that is because if I'd have just said I'm doing a webinar, it's £100, and people not necessarily, they might buy it, but because it was her authority and people trusted her and it was that relationship, they were already sold.
Yeah.
And it's that thing about building up referrals and raving fans, because, hey, look, if you turn around to me and say, I've got a book called Never Work Again, that's great. But if I turn around to someone else and say, you need to go and read Erlen's book, Never Work Again, it's brilliant. It's worth so much more.
Absolutely.
And that's why affiliate's great. But the problem with affiliate is that you're paying someone. It's like, you don't know, it's biased.
Right.
It's always going to be biased because it's based on money. If you've got someone that will promote your product for free because they genuinely want to, because they know that it's going to, because everyone wants to give good advice.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to give it their opinion. So if someone thinks that they can do something that's going to they're going to turn around and go, oh, that book you told me to read? Oh, it's changed my life. Everyone wants to be the person that referred that book.
Absolutely.
So it's about creating those relationships.
So if you've been watching this video and you want to learn more about what you do and work with you, what kind of things can you offer the people watching this or listening?
Great question. Well, I can't work with anyone right now because I literally took my last client on last night, and I'm fully booked for the first and second quarter of this year, which is great news for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, last year I was very respectful of the fact that my time is very limited, and there's a lot of people that I need to help.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason. I mean, I started writing this book 2 years ago, and the whole purpose of this book is this just tells you what you need to know. There are 10 chapters, and it's my 10 steps. So I've got 10 steps of the 10 things you need to know to be successful online. And it takes you through the customer journey, sitemaps, wireframes, design, content, split testing, analytics. And it does
the cover.
So it's plan your website.
Yeah, plan your website.
And so the book doesn't actually tell you what systems to use. There's no technology in here. The whole purpose of this book, and it's a simple read, it's a quick read, and it's aimed at the beginner. This is aimed at someone who's scared of technology. And because the reason for it is when you read it, if you buy this book and you read it and there is not one single point when you go, and if you don't have an aha moment, I will give you a full refund because it's failed.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of this book is it's thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Now, there's a workbook that goes with this. It's a free workbook, and so it tells you there. When you actually read the book, there's actually a link inside, and there's a QR code, and it says download the workbook.
Yeah.
Now, from a business perspective, it's because I want a data capture. I'm very open with that.
Yeah.
But also, the workbook is a step-by-step 70-page PDF, which is every single question. Answer this, answer this, answer this, answer this, answer this. And if you go through and answer the questions, you will have a plan.
Yeah.
That you can give to a developer or a designer, or you can use yourself to build a website.
Yeah.
It's a complete strategic document for your website.
Cool.
That is the best thing that I have to offer people that are starting out. To go on from that, because I couldn't leave people there, the book is telling you what you need to do. I have an online course which actually shows you how to do it. Step-by-step video guides that shows you do this, and at the end you'll have a website. Okay,
and that's, you go to onlinemastery.co.uk to get that?
onlinemastery.co.uk, you'll see it. It's called Build Your Website. I would say for your listeners, for the fact that, thank you, by the way, if you've been listening, I really, really do appreciate you listening to me ramble. Hopefully it's been valuable.
Absolutely.
If you go to planyourwebsite.co.uk/free-gift, I give the first chapter of my book away. And one of the things I say to people is that I think a free gift should be that. It's a gift. If I'm giving you a gift and asking for your email address, that's not a gift. It's a transaction. It's a free one, but it's a transaction. So you can go and read the first chapter of my book. I don't want your email address. I don't want your name. Just go and read it. If you like it and you resonate with it, then you can read more.
Cool. So what was that address again? If you want to first.
It is www.planyourwebsite.co.uk/free-gift.
Okay. Cool, guys. You've heard it here with Steve Woody, best-selling author, website expert, and he's signing out from London, right?
Absolutely, and enjoy skiing. I'm a snowboarder myself, but I'm a little bit. I'm not gonna. I'm a little bit jealous that you're going skiing today.
It's cold as anything, so I'm not sure. You need to put on a lot of wool if you're going in -12. So.
Well, it's cold here, but it's not snowing, so I don't mind it when it's snowing. If it's hot or cold, that's great. But raining, drizzly's not that good. So maybe I'll pop over sometime. We'll go skiing together.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you. Mr. Outsource is a recruitment company matching busy entrepreneurs with Filipino virtual assistants, so you can have the time to focus on what's important.